Alright, there are many like myths and legends out there that usually can be proven like false with facts and evidence and thinking like logically about them. But what if I was to tell you that there's one that there's just as much supporting evidence as there is like counter arguments about? Well, that legend is the Slender Man. First, I'm going to tell you about the appearance and features of him. Then I'm going to tell you about like the history and origin. And finally, I'll tell you about Slender Man like today. The Slender Man has no face. It's like blank white. He's dressed in like a suit and tie. He's about 6 to 9 feet tall. He has multiple appendages. He's in wooded areas usually, and is usually accompanied by fog. Usually stalks adult victims. He doesn't ever usually attack them, and this usually causes them to go insane because you just usually be on like the edge of your vision, and you'll see him and then he'll disappear. Children, he usually befriends, and then later leaves them in like a wooded area, and then they disappear. He usually stalks victims who know about him. So yes, should have threw a disclaimer about him.
I know.
That's like a drawing of him. The circle with an X through it is like a symbol. This is a picture showing some children playing, and then the Slender Man's in the background. Now I'm going to talk to you about like the history of Slender Man. First, I'm going to actually start like modern day. The actual name Slender Man was created on a website called Something Awful Forums, and there was a contest to see who could create like a legend, get it out there, and have a bunch of like fake pictures and see if people would believe it. Well, the guy that actually created it took a bunch of like legends from like the 16th century and stuff and created the Slender Man today. So the name is like a modern day, so it was created in 2009. People who study Slender Man and whatnot have found cave paintings that show the figure over there with multiple appendages, and they believe that this like creature is leading away children, much like the Slender Man. So they believe that this is like an account of Slender Man as late as 9000 BC. The symbol for the name Slender Man is actually found in like Egyptian hieroglyphics. It represents the god Heracles. It's a faceless god in Egypt, but similar to like the Slender Man. They actually named a city after him, Heracleopolis. And there's like a legend that there's a labyrinth under the city dedicated to him. And a British archaeological team in the 1940s was said to have discovered that, but due to sickness and members disappearing, they abandoned the excavation of the site. Der Grossman is a German like fairy tale. He's a fairy that lived in the Black Forest and he preyed on bad children. This is an account from a journal in around 1702. It talks about a mother saying her child came in the day before and was yelling that there's like an angel outside and it's Der Grossman. And then the next day the child goes missing and the mother believes it was Der Grossman and took him. Der Reiter is another German like legend. These are two woodcuts from Hasselberg Castle they found in 1883. The woodcut's like a picture carved on wood. What's different about these, the guy that created them is Hans Streckenberg. Usually all of his photos are anatomically correct, but these ones show a figure with like multiple appendages and doing stuff that usually in his pictures during that time didn't have. And it shows, and the one on the left, being with like multiple arms and no face, taking a child from his mother. And then on this one it shows him impaling a victim, which like the Slender Man does today. Around that same time, there was a Roman fairy tale. It's called The Tall Man. And this is just part of like the legend about him, like from the story. It says the tall man stood in a clearing, dressed as a nobleman in all black, kind of like today's Slender Man who dresses in a black suit. Shadows lay over him, dark as cloudy midnight. He had many arms, long, boneless as snakes, all sharp as swords, and they really like worms on nails. Just like today's Slenderman, can have multiple arms, and they're usually waving. More recently, in 1970, the Henderson Horse Farm murder. When the cops showed up, Dad was like crying and like muttering a bunch of nonsense, and when they interrogated him, he admitted to shooting his wife, saying he was trying to save his wife from like a tall man dressed in black. And he said his daughter was eaten by the man, or like taken away. No one actually ever found the daughter, and that she's still missing, like the body's still missing. Right after this interrogation, they had him at night, they had him in wrist restraints because he was considered mentally unstable. Well, somehow he got out of his wrist restraints and chewed through his wrist, committing suicide that night. No one knows what the being in the images. Many who studied the picture say it's probably the man that he was talking about that took the child, but people who believe in Slenderman consider that to probably be Slenderman. There are many more accounts of Slenderman throughout history, and more recently today. Pictures with like missing children have like distorted or blurry images in the background, and there's many like people who say they've like seen the Slenderman or whatever, and he's stalking them. Now I'm going to tell you more about Slenderman today. Like I mentioned earlier, the name was created on Something Awful forums. There are many personal stories today, like on websites and stuff. There's there's a blog called The Paranormal Pastor, and he actually, when Slenderman first started, stories first started going around in 2009, he asked people like to talk about it, and he's had hundreds and hundreds of people posting on there talking about experiences in like the 1990s and stuff, before like the name Slenderman came around, so they didn't know that like what their dreams were about, whatnot. Like they had dreams of Slenderman. More recently, The Tall Man was a movie that came out in 2012. These people take like the myth of the Slenderman and use it to cover up like child abductions. And in 2013, the movie The Entity is going to come out, which is actually about Slenderman, like about all the stuff I was talking about. And you can decide based on this stuff whether it's fact or fiction. You can look into it more if you want to or not, but basically you're either going to believe or not. It's Slenderman.